Jesus in all of Scripture. In each episode, we see what's happening in a biblical text and how it sheds light on Jesus and his gospel. Let's jump in. The last acts of Jesus prepares disciples for what's to come. The disciples need to know that Jesus is alive. They need to know the Holy Spirit will equip them for the task ahead. And they need to know Peter is still the one appointed to lead this effort. Mary Magdalene discovers Jesus' tomb empty just before dawn. She runs and tells the disciples, and Peter and John race to see for themselves. They find Jesus' grave empty and finally realize, like Lazarus, Jesus was always meant to die and rise again. But Jesus does not first appear to Peter and John. In Mary's grief and confusion, he approaches her and sweetly says one word, her name. Mary turns around and clings to him, and Jesus appoints her as the first witness to his resurrection. Later, Jesus appears to his disciples and commissions them as the Father commissioned him. Before, Jesus had washed their feet to point towards his cleansing work on the cross. Now, Jesus breathes on them, pointing forward to the coming of the Holy Spirit, who will empower them to proclaim the good news. But some don't believe. Thomas refuses to get his hopes up unless he sees Jesus for himself. 1 week later, Jesus appears behind a locked door and singles Thomas out. Jesus invites him to see and touch his scars. He tells Thomas that eternal life is based on faith, not sight. Then Jesus appears one final time to the disciples while they are out catching fish. Jesus called Peter to lead the disciples, but Peter had openly denied Jesus. Jesus restores Peter by symbolically undoing his 3 denials with 3 confessions of love, and gives Peter 3 commissions to care and lead God's people. It's good news that we are sent to tell good news. Jesus sent Mary to the disciples with the news of the empty tomb. Jesus sent the disciples with the promise of the Spirit. Jesus sends Thomas with hope for doubters. And Jesus sends Peter to establish the church. This is all good news for people like us, because we are people like them, the grieving, fearful, doubting, and denying. Jesus' resurrection takes people like us and turns us into new creations. Like Mary, we announce that the tomb is empty to people who have not yet heard it. Like the disciples, we are filled with God's Spirit to announce the forgiveness of sins. Like Thomas, we are armed with eyewitness testimony for doubters. Like Peter, we're commissioned to lead in our circles of influence to glorify God in both life and death. And as John would say, there is so much more we could say about the work of Jesus in his days and hours, but not even the internet is big enough to hold it all. May the Holy Spirit give you eyes to see the God who raised his Son from the grave, and may you see Jesus as the risen King who has sent you to proclaim the good news of Jesus Christ.